individual that owns those resources. That's again why I make the delineation between not only labor or the homesteading principle, but also the one that staked first claim to it
Yeah,
or make first
yeah,
claim
and
to
I
the
think I,
resources.
I think that Tyler would have made that claim too had it not been at 4 o'clock in the morning. He would have accentuated that part of it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let that one go. But the other part of it is okay. So I think that we got so hyper focused on the economic system that we kind of forget like what the point is of an economic system, right? Like it's to bolster society. It's in order, like, right? And so like if you fucking zoom out, uh, if you zoom out from that and you go, okay, well, what is the point of society then, right? And it seems to me, and I'm not making this claim on behalf of Tyler, but it seems to me like Tyler would say the point of society is to protect your material property.
I think he would well, I think that he would argue that it wouldn't only just be that, but it would also be for like to protect like the rights of individuals, like society, like it would be like on us to recognize the rights of individuals, considering that we're both ANCAPist. We don't believe in a government. The government only job is supposed to be to protect our rights, but they never are able to actually do that. So I would say that we would also rely on like society to be doing this as well.
See, I would. This is, I think, the like the core, and I wish we'd have gotten to this point because like this is my last, like the core of our disagreement is my belief is that society is actually to mitigate, like the purpose of society is to better the human existence, is to mitigate human suffering, and a part of that is definitely protection of rights, but it's also for like to enable people to thrive. And to me, if the goal of your society is to not just to protect like property, for example, or protect material assets, but also to ensure that the well-being of the species.
Right, but again, you have to remember that we in our view, we ground our rights through like property. Like we believe that our rights stem from property rights. We believe that the closest thing to an objective truth is property rights because of the fact that we own our bodies. So if we focus on property rights as a society, then we would also be focusing on the ethics or like the rights of the individual by not being able to infringe upon another individual's property, which would be their bodies through the self-ownership principle.
Well, see, and now okay, and that's completely fine, but that is secular in nature. And being a religious person like I am, that I would say that the most objective truth is literally like to uh, act in your life as a vessel for God's love. And I know that's completely subjective to my perspective, but that's my belief that it is an objective truth.
Hmm.
And so if that's the case, if that's the core from which like the most internal component of my philosophy about life, right, is to act as a vessel for God's love, right? Then society therefore has to be like an extension of that.
Yeah, so I can agree with you on your like ideal like when it comes to that, right? But the biggest thing is that I don't believe that I don't believe that self-ownership is inherently a secular view.
Well, I'm not
I
saying
believe
it is.
well because I would argue that what self-ownership would adhere to would be this free will principle, right? God gives us free will, which would thus be the will for us to be able to govern ourselves. Um, so like I would say that those two definitely can intertwine together. I just choose not to base my ethical frameworks around like religion because then it becomes a theological debate as opposed to an ethical or moral debate, right? You begin to kind of stray away from the philosophy and you get into more of this theological, which is philosophical in and of itself, right? But it becomes kind of a different conversation. So that's why I don't fall back on religion as like what I would base my beliefs in.
Right. Well, I think that that's actually, and this is where I would disagree again. I think that that's actually like the objectivity of morality. If morality is objective, which I believe it is, then it has to come from a higher source. It cannot. It has to come from a source of objective truth. right? And so, what objective truth is there that's greater than God in this sense?
Yeah, but then this is the thing though, like, and this is where I'll play devil's advocate, even though like I do believe in God, but you have to prove God's existence, and not only that, but you have to prove the fact that God is this arbiter of truth when it comes to morality. You have to prove
Well, I
that
mean,
he is the most
God
moral
does
entity,
exist.
right? If he created morals, if he is the framework or the rooting of your ethical or moral framework, you have to prove in which not only that he exists, but also that he is the arbiter of truth when it comes to morals or ethics.
And so I will also play devil's advocate and say, what do you mean he? It could be she, but no. In all seriousness, uh, like God, I think that if we take morality as objective, and we believe that God exists, then it has to come from God, because humans can't just create an objective reality without God. We can't manifest objectivity. We are subjective creatures by nature.
Wait. For man to have for do you understand what it means for something to be objective, right? It means mind. It means mind independent, which means it can be independent without the mind. It doesn't require the mind for it to exist, which means that man wouldn't have created this. Man wouldn't have created objective morality. We would have simply discovered it. It would have always existed. And if it would have always existed, then it doesn't necessarily mean that this must have came from some entity, right? This simply could just be a universal truth. This could simply just be something that always existed that man discovered. It doesn't necessarily mean that something had to create it.
Well, I mean, something does have to create everything, right? Like that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you can go with the Big Bang theory, right? Like, and just say that before the Big Bang there was nothing, but there really kind of was. So like, where does the origination for everything come from? And if you eventually trace it all back, at least from a Christian perspective, which I know you also adhere to, that is God. And so for me, it's like, well, and I agree that this gets into a hairier situation, but I did want to say it. If like you follow that order flow of operations, it goes God, objective morality as we define it, at least as we understand it as best we can, is like we talked about, to act as a vessel for God's love, and then therefore we should build society on the principle of that. And
Yeah, I
that's
mean, like
that.
I can hear that, but at the same time, though, like you wouldn't be adhering to like religious freedom. You would be moving into a form of like a theocracy, which I would not advocate for. I would
Well,
never
I'm not.
want I would never want the fundamentals of like a country where like anybody is able to force individuals to partake in a specific religion. I would never say that. Even if I were to feel or believe that this is the right system, right, or that this would be the most proper system to have, I would never like enforce that upon individuals.
Well,
That's
no,
a that's an infringement upon like their like fundamental rights, again, like
but
to govern themselves, to choose what they want to believe in or how they want to partake, right?
but this doesn't necessarily. These things aren't mutually exclusive or mutually inclusive. Like these things can, like for example, a lot of people say that that the Constitution was written by founders who based it on a sense of Christian morality, right, or Christian values. Is that not a premise that you believe?
Wait, sorry, repeat that.
Do you believe that the founders based our society on Christian morality or Christian values?
I would disagree. I would disagree with the fact that majority of the founding fathers were actually like deists, and then there were a few that were actual Christians, such as like John Locke, that adhered to like natural law and things like that, and divine creation. And um, I just wouldn't say that this would make a statement for all of the founding fathers. Many of the founding fathers were deists, partook in like occultic practices. Freemasonry was very prevalent within the founding fathers. So no, I would make the argument that like Christianity was not like the rooting
Okay, but it's still based on a theistic belief set.
on a theistic belief set. Um, I would argue that like I think that just because individuals were deists or had a theistic kind of like view, that they're like not all of them reflected this in like what they were pushing for, right? I would say John Locke would be a prime example of somebody who did clearly, but like other founding fathers, like they went in their writings without ever mentioning any kind of like a creator or like some source, right? So like I would argue that there, even though people try to make the argument that we were founded on Christian values, and I do think that again, like I think that that was prevalent with some of the founding fathers. I wouldn't make an argument that that is like the founding of the country. No.
Yeah, and static character. I'm not making the comment about John Locke. That's Mikey. So John Locke actually wasn't a founding father. Just he was he was inspirational to a lot of founding fathers. But just to clarify there.
I'm pretty sure John Locke was like one of the 50 founding fathers. We have like over like 30 or 40 founding fathers.
No, Locke. I believe I want to say Locke died in the early 1700s.
Maybe, maybe I might have him conflated, but I would just say that like John Locke's framework. John Locke was not even American, dude. John Locke was literally in America. What?
I don't know if did he come to America.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
What's up, Static?
Nothing much. Got to turn you down a little bit. I like John Locke. I like his take on aristocracy, where like to be led by the best among us. But I don't think he was I don't think he was a theist in the way that people are theists today. Like, I could be wrong about this, but the way he described God was more of like the universe as one, which is how a lot of like old theists, like Saint Peter, or like Pascal and whatnot, would talk about God being like referred to the universe as one entity moving.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure John Locke died in like 1704, having never made it to America.
He just inspired a lot of the philosophy behind the Constitution, like
Oh, okay.
the
Maybe,
idea.
yeah, maybe that is where I was getting
It was
conflated.
Thomas Jefferson
I thought that he had.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say I thought that he had traveled to the New World. I guess I was mistaken. I do know that a lot of his writings were kind of like this predication for like for some of the beliefs of like the foundings of the country. That's why I was like adhering to John Locke, because I know that like the Lockean proviso and things like that are things that are definitely intertwined when it comes to like property rights and the ideals of like forestalling and things like that.
If you look at Thomas Jefferson's like draft of the Constitution, and then like, or like his contribution to the Constitution, and then like John Locke's like work, it's almost plagiarism. Like, it's crazy how similar it is. But
Yeah,
there
it's
are
pretty
some
much the
different.
same thing.
Yeah, it's like identical. But not that it really matters in this conversation. I think it's interesting, and I like John Locke's idea about like what he talks about with aristocracy is not like a uh, is like the idea that we should be led by the best among us. So if someone's making a decision on something like, I mean, something that's a hot topic right now, or just talking about like in this conversation, like gun control, right? Who would make the decision? He would not say like, you should democratically make that decision. You should have the person who is the most knowledgeable on the idea of gun control making decisions on gun control, not just the common person.
Well, I think that if you consider that, then it's like aristocracy is potentially antithetical to that. You know, it's like because like aristocracy creates, or essentially through inheritance ensures the abolition or absolvance, let's say the dissolution of meritocracy.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that when you try and practice aristocracy, it becomes more of like nepotism and like the
Right.
idea that like you end up what is it called, charlatans and like liars end up stuck in positions where you think they're the best among us, but they're actually not.
Right. No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but it's a cool idea. because it's an anti-democratic like viewpoint, but like the whole idea where democracy is to be ruled by the mob, but it's like it's just it's a political philosophy, but it's not a something that you can really implement very well. Like,
Right. It's not pragmatic. It's idealistic.
yeah, exactly. um, I watched you talking in someone else's live earlier, Mike. I followed you. I don't exactly agree with you on a lot of these things, but I enjoyed your conversations.
Yeah, you talking about the dude that kicked me when I said I was a libertarian, or that I was more libertarian leaning.
Dude, somebody
He was a little funny.
That?
Bro, I literally said, yeah, I was like, he was like, are you conservative? Or no, he said, are you libertarian? I was like, yeah, I would say I'm more libertarian than I would be conservative. And he goes, oh, okay, yep, bye. I don't play in Fantasyland, and kicks me out the box. I was like, bro,
Oh
what?
no.
Because he was claiming that morality was subjective. And I was like, okay. So like even if you convince yourself that like doing an act that would be like an immoral act, like if you were to like aggress upon an individual that's a non-aggressor, but you convince yourself that this is moral, does that change the nature of the action itself? And then that was when he asked me if I was libertarian, and when I said yes, he's like, "Oh, I'm not playing in Fantasyland." And just dropped me.
This topic has come up a few times where we're talking about whether or not morality is like subjective or objective, right? And I'm not trying to like start up a debate on religion or anything, because that's a little bit too much for me. But so I feel like if we're trying to be pragmatic, if I like that word that we used, if we're trying to be pragmatic about it, you can be like there's nihilists and people who like pick apart arguments based on the idea that like, well, you can't really prove anything, but you can make an assumption that people agree are true generally. Like in this conversation, I could probably say something like we are humans and we have a body, and that's not something that we're really going to like pick apart too much, and you can build things off of that. But like if it's one thing to say we can agree on it in this conversation and it's going to be universally accepted,
Right.
However, there are certain like qualities of the human experience that I think we could agree a vast majority of people are going to experience the same way. And if you're able to draw those assumptions, then you can build something off of that is generally true for humans. Right?
Yeah, I would agree if you're saying that like whether it's based on like some kind of like a religion basis or something, that humans will find like some way to create a basis to something. Is that what you were effectively getting at?
Yeah, and like the idea is it's not mutually exclusive with like religious philosophy or something, or like religious morality or something. Like
Right.
it would be, even if religion is true, even if this is like a direct teaching that supposedly comes from a higher power, the fact of the matter is you can still draw conclusions outside of that based off of it, like the shared human experience.
And that's where a lot of what we call exit theorists, it's the people that believe that morality is subjective. That's where their arguments kind of fall flat, is because their arguments are predicated upon this idea that you can't use intuition, because by using intuition, therefore it inherently makes your argument subjective, right? Or your perspective subjective.
I can't remember who said it, but someone talks about like all knowledge requires a leap of faith, but not all leaps of faith are created like the same.
Yeah, exactly. And into it. So if you the problem, the reason why this is fallacious, this exit theorist position, is because in order to even presuppose that these positions require intuition, you have to use intuition.
Yeah. Like,
so
I think that's Rene Descartes. That's Rene Descartes who said, like, I think, therefore I am. Like, he had the whole conversations about how do I know everything I experience isn't just like a demon essentially giving me some illusion, and this is like none of this is actually happening.
Yeah, That's that radical skepticism, man. I can't align with that, man. The radical skepticism is crazy. Like, I get it to an extent. Yeah, you want to question and you want to be skeptical, but like, to tell yourself, how do I know that I'm not in a demon's curse that is forcing me to do these things or like live my life is just crazy to me. Like, at that point, it's like waking up in the morning and like, how do I know that if I get off my bed that I'm not going to fall endlessly into an abyss and that I'm not going to step on my floor? Like, it seems very like counterintuitive. You know what I mean? Like, it almost seems like you have to go the opposite to try and like justify why you could even hold the belief that that could be possible.
Well,
Right. And
I
it's like,
think
well,
it is important.
then just to be able to presuppose that, you're using your own intuition, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like you fall flat on this idea that like, well, it's like, you know, you're being subjective in your analysis of the subjectivity of others, you know. And so if we have to at some point agree that intuition is not inherently subjective, it's more of an analysis or an understanding. It can be, let's say, an analysis or understanding of objectivity.
Which is where the whole leap of faith thing comes in, because it's like, yeah, you can say that maybe you can construct some potential fate. Like, I have food in my refrigerator and I'm hungry, and but it could have been replaced in the middle of the night with poison food. Maybe all food has been replaced with poison food overnight. But the leap of faith that is required for me to come to that conclusion is so much greater than the leap of faith to say that food's probably still good. It's never happened to me before. You use something
Right.
like inductive or deductive reasoning to say the food doesn't look like it's been tampered with, so, or I haven't ever had my food tampered with before, so I probably am safe to eat this. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. That's kind of like what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, when it comes to like the philosophy around like moral realism, I'm definitely still like looking into it to be able to like justify my beliefs or justify my claims. It seems to be like, at least to me, that it would make the most sense that there would be some kind of objectivity to morality, because there are these things that are like universally agreed upon, right? Like, if I were to go to like a civilization that was completely like separated from any modernized society, and I were to go and like kill like a prominent figure within that society, they're going to react the same way that we would react within a modernized society, right? Like,
Hey,
they're going to know
some
that
of them might treat you like king.
it depends, right? If it's a case of like liberation, yeah, sure. But like, if this is like an individual that's like, again, a non-aggressor, that is not a rights violator, right? That I'm just going and taking a form of aggression or like an act of aggression against, they're going to react the same way, right? Like, I
but
feel like that would just be like asinine to assume that like they would just be okay with this, right? This seems to be something that like we've universally agreed upon. So I just like, I don't know, it just seems to be the
there's
most logical conclusion to come to, that there would be an objective basis to morality.
there's a couple things I want to throw into that, because I hear what you're saying and I can I feel you. So one thing is, if you are like actively trying to look into this like more objectivity kind of thing, um, I would say when you say the words, I'm looking into it to try and like be able to support my claim more, it's a dangerous road to go down if you are like searching things that are going
Yeah,
to
my
like give
bad.
you a confirmation
Right,
bias.
right,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I didn't mean that. Yeah, I didn't mean that in a sense of confirmation
Okay.
bias. I more
Yeah,
meant that
we're
just
good.
in a sense to be more aware of the argumentation around my claims, so that I can at least like make an educated decision as to whether this is something that I would push for, that I do feel comfortable arguing.
Okay. And then the
Right.
other side of that would also be that like even if there is one conclusion that makes sense, doesn't mean that there aren't other conclusions which might not make more sense. And in my perspective, what I am making the claim of, I suppose, is the idea that being human, however we ended up being human, there's a shared human experience in just being the biological creature of humans. And that
Right.
would then create a shared, like some shared experiences, like the idea that death is something that's scary.
No, I would. Yeah, I would agree.
Um,
So then, with
I'm
that, My bad.
I
What was it?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I was just wondering, like, so if you're saying that, like, because this is like a shared experience between like humans, that would still be an argument then that it would be like subjective then, no, right? Because it would depend upon the individual,
It
or
depends how you're using the word subjective. Because if it's a shared human experience, that's generally true for all humans. I mean, I would be comfortable saying the word this is like an objective truth because even though it does exist, like from your perspective as a human, like if that's, and there may be exceptions to the rule, like mental illness, something like extreme like trauma events that cause people to have like wildly differing appearance or opinions, like it's going to be what the human experience is like. You know what I mean?
Or how to interpret the human experience.
Yeah, or an interpretation of the human experience.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
would no, I would.
So, but
And-
like we talked about earlier, there has to be like parameters for how far we go into this, right? Like, do we become like absolute skeptics? Like, I don't think so. I think that there's a difference between good criticism, which everything should receive, and absolute skepticism.
Right.
You can skip that by assuming a premise, by joining an assumed premise, which is like in this case, I would be saying, I'm making the assumption. I'm from the foundation. I'm saying we are human and there is a shared human experience that's like universal to humans. And if we can agree on that premise, which I don't feel like is when we start talking about what is that shared human experience like, that's when it's a little more difficult. But if we just take those two things, we can say that given that some other things are definitely true. You know what I mean?
Certainly. Like, but I guess and this kind of builds into what, like, the point that Rusty Hildebrand in here is missing is that, there has to be an assumed presence, of objectivity at some point. Like, if we continue down this road of questioning, it leads just to insanity, right? Like, but it's good to say, okay, like, maybe 300 years ago, not a lot of people would have spoken up to refute the truth that sex is pleasurable with a woman, for a man and a woman having sex is pleasurable, but nowadays people would say, well, not for all men, right? Not for all women, right? Okay. Yeah. So then let's dial that back then, and we can say sex is pleasurable, where there are some people who label themselves asexual that say that they don't receive any pleasure out of this. And, had I not met people like this anecdotally, I might like question their existence. But like, I'm willing to agree that that's possibly that's a possibility, right? Maybe there's a hormonal thing. Maybe it's just the way their mind's shaped. It doesn't really matter. Then, okay, sex matters to the human experience. Like, that's something that's subjective because, I mean, it literally involves the procreation of our species. It's without sex, we don't have the human experience.
I could say that. I think that to make the conclusion from there that sex is always pleasurable, that would be a really big jump, like for anyone.
Right, absolutely. That's why I'm saying it's good to question it.
God, dude.
To deconstruct this narrative, right, is criticism. But then to say, something like sex.
Bro, what is that dude's deal? He keeps joining and then leaving the box, bro.
I have no idea. I thought you were talking about Rusty at first. I was like, I don't know, man.
No, Rusty's just wilding in the chat, but no, I don't know who that Glock 9 trigger person is. They keep putting a request in, I let them up, and then they just drop down.
I think their mic is probably messed up is why.
Can't explain it any better for you. It's really easy. Yeah, so Rusty, if you've just convinced yourself that you believe what you believe and you never have to test your logical consistency or as to whether or not your framework holds water, then you've clearly just adopted some form of like egotism where you believe that what you believe must be true, which I would say is completely asinine and willfully ignorant.
Let's go. Yep. That sounds mean, but it's something that you should think about.
Like, just saying, man. If you can't question, If you can't, yeah, exactly, yeah, respectfully, I'm just saying, like, if you can't question yourself, you gotta be more comfortable or like confident in your beliefs, right? I would argue that you're not confident in your beliefs if you don't feel comfortable questioning them, not us.
No, so, Rusty, but we already, yeah, exactly. That's 100% agreed. Like, in Rusty, we already clarified what the boundaries for this are, right? Like, if you continue to question inherently, that leads to madness. That's absolute skepticism. Like,
Right.
at that point, you're just picking apart at like the reality and trying to guess at whether or not reality even exists. Like, if you continue down questioning everything, like at some point the questions should be resolved if you're using healthy criticism and appropriate logic to resolve them.
Hey, I want to continue this conversation. I got to go to the bathroom though, so I'm gonna hop off for a little bit.
All right, but yeah, no worries, man.
No, we'll listen to you. It's okay.
Chill out.
You know, the way that TikTok is banning people, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to, cross that boundary with you guys. You're great.
Yeah, probably shouldn't go that route, man. Yeah, you're good. Just jump back in when you're done, man.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah, so why are you a man talking about women's bodies?
What?
Why are you a man talking about women's bodies?
Yeah, because women don't have rights and I'm a fascist and want to control them.
Oh, thank God. I finally found a sane person.
What's going on, buddy?
What up? Oh, God, it's Love Fixes. Oh, no. He doesn't know who I am, actually. I'm undercover with him.
No.
Hey, I have a question. I have a question for Nova.
Oh, no. What up?
Yeah, why do you claim to be a conservative yet meet up with women for Airbnbs?
No.
Oh, well, yeah. This is very simple. I'm pleading the fifth.
Let's go! Oh, man. Hey, no hate, man. Legit, though. No hate. Oh, man. Yo, I told her that the first time that I talked with her on in the Discord, I was like, yo, if you're convinced to be pro-life by like the march, I got no problem with you attending, man. Like, to the Airbnb.
Well, we'll see. I have my doubts about that, but
you got your
Wait,
work.
you don't-
Yeah, you got your work
don't
cut
think-
out for you.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you're not going to be able to convince her?
look, hold on. We aren't gonna doubt me here, okay? Well,
Bro, if you can't even convince some chick that you're macking on, like, how are you going to be able to convince like other people, Pluto?
Oh, it's Pluto.
Oh, my,
You've
Nova,
blown
I
my
meant
cover.
Nova.
You've blown
My bad.
cover.
My bad.
Like
I
this
gotta
motherfucker
go.
Like this motherfucker doesn't have the most distinct voice on the app. Then you've blown
Yeah,
my
I thought
cover.
it was Pluto, but I wasn't going to say anything. But thanks, Tyler.
Oh, this guy.
Bro, why did this guy get so happy? He's like, oh, it's Pluto.
Because I'm a great guy. I'm just that guy, pal. Just
Pluto
that
and I
guy.
are friends.
Yeah, I don't know if you're that guy, man.
I am absolutely that guy. When people say that guy, no, I'm the guy. I'm just guy.
All right, so Pluto, here's what I need. Here's what I need from you, man. I
boy.
need someone on your roster. Okay, we're gonna start keeping rosters now of people that we actually convince that attribute being pro-life to you. You gotta you gotta convince one person. Mike, you gotta have a person.
Wait, what? I gotta have a
You gotta
person.
we have to. You have to start your rosters, man.
Okay.
You gotta have. Look, within the next month, I feel like you can do this, man. Within 30 days, set this goal for yourself, man. It's not a goal that I'm giving you. It's a goal that you should give yourself. Like, convince one person to actually go from pro-choice to pro-life.
Oh, it's so easy, bro. I literally.
But they have to attribute it to you. That you were the one who got them to think and become and change their mind.
Convinced
yeah,
Tyler wanted to be pro-life.
Yo, I got that one dude Cole that ended up joining the server and shit afterwards, and now he debates pro-life.
But after
Who?
hearing,
What's
but
his
after hearing Pluto's
His
arguments, I'm
name's
convinced.
Cole.
Of,
His name's hold up real quick. His name's Cole, and he jumped in Nat's live when I was up there when I was on her live one time, and he started like trying to debate us on pro-choice, and I just completely like he had no way to overcome any of my arguments, and he was like, I never thought about it this way. He was like, I'm pro-life now. He was like, you just changed my mind, and then he came in the server later and was like, yeah, he was like, so I'm debating pro-life now. I'm wondering if you could help me with my argumentation and stuff. I was like, yeah, of course.
Well, that's dope. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love getting people.
Yeah,
to change
Pluto.
their
How
mind.
come you don't have one of those yet, man?
I do. I'm just coming with an army. I'm coming right at you once I have
You're coming with an army?
full lineup.
Calm down, bro. We have a Hulk. Calm down.
Yeah, we we have a Hulk.
You have an army, we have a Hulk, bro.
It's just this is
Puny God.
it's just an
beauty god.
it's just an axiom. Every pro-lifer you see, I converted. It's just
It's an
you just gotta
axiom.
assume
Bro, get
that.
out of here. Get out of here.
Safe
Spell
to assume I converted
axiomatic
unless
truth.
they say different.
Spell axiom.
Bro, imagine being like
LCY.
unironically like just using intuition for everything. Yeah, it's just intuitive, man. It's just intuitive.
Right.
It just is what it is, so it must be true.
What, like that guy who came in the box yesterday against you?
So how would you so Tyler, how would you ground like objective morality if not through intuition? Do you hear me, Tyler?
Sounds like he's at like a convenience store.
Yeah, buddy's at the store right now or something. Getting food.
Oh,
or
I just saw
something.
31 coins. Whoever gave me that, I appreciate it. I'm probably way late.
Oh, wait, that was Tony Boy.
Who?
Tony Boy.
Oh. Oh, nice. Well, thank you, Tony Boy. I think that's the like third most coins I've ever received for going live.
Tyler.
Yo, you should mod me, Mikey. I can feel the fucking power already.
What's up, Trinky? Hope your day is going good. What's up, Jam?
Yeah, so I was gonna put on y'all's live yesterday after the Discord, but I was like, oh, okay, I'll look up Tyler Blunt, and I was like, holy shit, man, there's like 500 accounts.
Yeah. No, yeah, if you look me up, I got 8
Yeah.
accounts running right now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I had a
Yeah.
question for you.
Yeah, I totally left my phone. Yeah, I left my phone at the restaurant, bro. I had to go back. I was like, why can't I hear you anymore? I was like, oh shit, I left my phone.
Bro, we just like heard all the background noises that were going on. We're like, I was like, Tyler? I was like, but no, so like when we're talking about objective morality, right? If you're talking about intuition, how would you ground objective morality if not through like intuition?
Well, you could. Well, okay, so I'm agnostic on there being an objective morality now.
Okay.
Because, like, it's hard to say. I want there to be one, but I will operate. I would say this. I would say whether or not there is an objective morality, I will operate as if there is, if it is intuitively so. If there's no defeater for this position, then I'm going to operate as if it is. And this will be what I would say would be objective morality. Now, whether or not we say that it's objective or not objective, if my position is still like more logically true than your position, then I would say that regardless if you think it's subjective or objective, mine should be used.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
I've
I've started to run into some problems when it comes to like objective morality, which is like I do think that I'm kind of starting to be a little bit more agnostic with it as well, because I don't really know. I haven't seen necessarily like a defeater for the possibility of there being objective morality, but I also haven't seen some like overwhelming substantiator that like grounds this 100%.
I consider a theory that we kind of are all proponents of, but not necessarily a law that's been established, right? So like the theory of evolution, right? Like, I mean, I don't think I have to argue that here, right? Like we can all agree that evolution is the above and beyond most likely explanation for the creation of our species, right?
Like, yeah, sure.
So we don't have to kind of like expand on that to say therefore that well, it's not a law, so therefore like in order to prove it as a law, we'd have to have like video evidence over time to like effectively ensure that we're completely 100% correct in all facets. Like we may not 100% understand evolution, but we understand it enough to be able to causally link the development of species.
Mike, did you ask me a question? I'm sorry, I was dealing with an employee. Did you ask me a question?
I was just letting you know that like I think I'm starting to be more agnostic when it comes to like objective morality, because I haven't seen a good defeater against it, but I haven't seen like this amazing substantiator that will like ground it entirely. Right?
Exactly. That's my thing. It's just like I can say that my position is the most logically true position, and I can say that like my position, like should be like whether you call it objective, it should be like the position because it's most logically true. My position defeats all positions. But does that necessarily mean that it is objectively true? I'm not convinced anymore, man. I'm just sitting here like it should be like universal, I think is like a better word than objective. Like this should be like the universal position is my position. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's objectively true.
Yeah, it's a theory that we all adhere to, but not necessarily proven to be law. That's what I'm saying. It's
yes. Now you're going to get into things where it's like, whoa, are you saying that essaying children is not objectively wrong? I would say, based on my position, I will use my position as the objective truth because there's no defeater to my position. So because of that, like my position should be universally imposed, like upon the masses.
And I would agree with you, and I'd actually say there's something else that you can use to bolster that claim, because if you evaluate both statements, right, that morality is objective and morality is subjective, and you were to evaluate these in the posit as they're posited via positive claims, right? Like for example, morality is subjective. Okay, why is that? Okay, well, the exit theorist argument is that, and we were just talking about this right before you came on, Tyler, is that by using intuition, humans are therefore inherently subjective. But in order to make that positive statement, you have to use intuition to understand that intuition makes humans subjective. So that in and of itself, it's a fallacious and circular argument, and it essentially like cancels out the ability to make the morality is subjective argument as a positive claim towards it. So, it to me, it makes more sense to say morality is objective, even though we cannot like prove it as a hard science. It is more logical. Gamer Dad, unless you get in the box, I don't believe you.
Well, Gamer Dad, he's at work right now, so he can't. Or he's busy or something right now, so he just can't jump in the box. I invited him, but he just can't jump up. What's up, Nova? Welcome back.
Yeah, Nova, what do you think about this?
I don't know. I kind of had to take a 3-minute break, but I've decided becoming now more and more liberal. I decided being conservative is bad.
Welcome to the dark side.
So Kelsey was able to change you, and you weren't able to change Kelsey.
This doesn't apply to you. Yeah, this isn't going to apply to you. Like, you probably don't know this guy named Pluto. But, like I would say that, like, there are certain people. I mean, if you link up with chicks who are, like, liberals at Airbnbs who are pro-choice, man, I mean, they might just turn you, like, liberal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
if you're a weak-minded man, you know?
Yeah, I think I heard this Pluto guy you're talking about. I remember he used to be like pro-life, he used to be like a conservative, but now I heard he's like a straight up evictionist now who makes the sentience argument. What else does he do? He believes in bigger government, more taxes, gun control.
Wait, who the hell
sure.
are we talking about?
Pluto. I heard that's what he is now.
Okay.
Okay, so
Who the fuck
Pluto's
is
not going to March for Life, is what I'm hearing.
Well,
Yeah,
he's still going,
Pluto
just
sounds
as one of
like
like he dyed his hair blue, and he's gonna go as one of the protesters.
Not staying in no Airbnb with us.
Yo, I guess this motherfucker's sleeping on the porch.
Right. Hey,
my
Glock
God.
9, what's up, man? You keep trying to jump in my live. What you coming in to talk about?
Hey, well, what's good, man? What's good? Yeah, my mic was not working, so that's why I kept on falling down. But I think it's now working right now.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good. Man.
I wanted to just I wanted to ask about the anti-gun control thing. Like, I don't really understand that statement. Like, I'm not really from like the States. I think you can tell by my accent. But I wanted to ask about like what is that about, like the anti-gun control thing?
So I would believe that one of the most like basic fundamental rights that man has would be our right to property. And I would say that any kind of form of gun control or regulation around that would be a regulation that is preventing you from being able to obtain such property. So I would say that it would be inherently unethical to do so, right? Because it is our property rights are our most fundamental right when it comes to man, right? I believe in the self-ownership principle, so I believe that my body is my property. So my rights would technically be centered around property rights. So if there's any kind of an infringement upon me to be able to own or obtain certain kind of property, then I would say that would be unethical.
Okay. Okay. So I think I understand your perspective, but doesn't that like increase like the incidences, like for example what is happening right now in America of shootings and stuff, and people, the violence, generally speaking, doesn't that really anti-gun control doesn't it like affect that? Like, doesn't it cause much more violence and crime and criminal?
So I would say, like, based on like what my normative framework is, right? Like, since I'm like a deontologist, I would say that I would say no matter what the consequences are of the action, right? As long as like a rights violation or like unethical practice isn't occurring, then I would say that this would still be the better option, even though there might be consequences that would like come from it, right? So I would say that like rather than being able to infringe upon an individual's right to be able to own property under the guise of for the greater good because bad things happen with said property, I would say that rather we should allow individuals to have access to this property so that they can defend themselves from those that choose to use it for evil.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good logical explanation and reason. But I do agree with you to some extent, but I also believe that I feel like I think it should be a little bit harder to get access to a gun. Like, for example, if you look at like other different countries, we can agree to disagree, but if you look at like different countries, like it's much difficult to get a gun. You have to have so many papers and registrations and stuff. And I think people who are able to complete that process are people who are responsible enough, people who get background checks and stuff. But if guns are accessible to everyone, then I think that's a bad thing, because at the end of the day, it's going to fall in the wrong hands of irresponsible people and result in, a lot of incidents.
Right, but I could also, so since you're not from America, I could also clue you in that majority of gun violence that occurs within the country is using illegal guns, right? Using guns that have been purchased on the black market. So the more laws that we put on the books or regulations that we put around people being able to legally obtain guns isn't really going to make that difference, right? The only reason that I would again say that like allowing people to be able to obtain such property to be able to defend themselves is because we do know that there are examples that people do use these things for evil. Now, one common misconception is that the ideal between a good guy with a gun is always wrong, but that's just not true, because any incident that you've ever had where there's been a mass shooting or anything like that, whoever ends up taking out the shooter, that's the good guy with a gun, right? If the good guy with a gun thing wasn't true, then every shooting would be perpetuated forever, right? These shootings clearly stop. They clearly end at one point. So therefore, the good guy with a gun definitely does reign true. So I would say that even though there are individuals that are going to be doing criminal activity with this property, that doesn't mean that we should infringe upon the rights of individuals to be able to obtain this property legally. Because if individuals are going to do criminal behavior, they're going to get the gun any way that they want, right? Like I got my first gun when I was 15 years old for $75. $75, bro. I was 15 years old on the street, right? Like, so it's like if somebody wants to get a gun, they're going to get a gun. So the last thing that we should do is prevent individuals that are able to legally obtain this property from being able to.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have much more perspective now, because I didn't really know that like most of the guns that are used in these crimes are obtained illegally. So do you think though like your government is doing enough to take away all those illegal guns and generally?
No, I believe my government is wholly corrupt. I believe that they do not care about the people. I believe that the government. Yeah, I believe that the government is like inherently corrupt, right? I believe that it is the most coercive entity within the country, and I also believe that they constantly tell us that they're doing things to help us, but in reality, all they're doing is cutting us down at the knees further. They constantly do this. They'll create a problem and then serve us a manufactured solution. This is the constant role of government. They will create a problem and then they'll give you a manufactured solution that they want you to be able to take. So I would say that like our government has very much influenced these situations with like mental health that has caused for there to be like these violent outbursts within society. So I would say that our government is like definitely partially responsible.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But like I 100% agree with you. I also like noticed that like that is really true. They create problems and then they give you the solutions that they already have created the problems before. For with the thing about like I'm from a different society and stuff, so I might be insensitive a bit, but just correct me if I'm wrong. But what's with the thing about males and females wanting to be called the other gender and stuff? Like what are your thoughts on that? Like, because to me it's really ridiculous, to be honest.
No, it is, man. It's what it is this ideal of postmodernism. I don't know if you're aware of what postmodernism is, but the ideal of postmodernism is you take objectivity out of everything, and then everything becomes subjective, right? So gender becomes subjective. Biological imperatives become a thing of the past because that would be something rooted in objectivity. We ignore those things. These are all things that we're starting to adopt within the Western society, and I would say that I would argue that it's one of the biggest crippling things to a society that leads to some of the greatest dynasties in history reaching their downfall. Is when you start to institute postmodernism ideologies into society. You take objectivity out of everything and allow it to be left up to the dealer's choice of how they feel. Society can't be conducive in that nature if it's just left up to each person to decide what is okay or what is right or what is wrong or true or not. That's no productive or conducive way for society to move.
Yeah. True. You've well put it. You've put it quite well, and I think I also agree with you there, because you look at like for example, right now everyone is talking about Kanye West, right? Kanye West and what he said. Of course, like some of the stuff he said was correct, and some of the stuff he said was wrong, and it was quite offensive to other ethnic groups like the Jews and stuff. But I don't understand why people are attacking him so much. Instead of and when people talk against like the trans community generally, like someone gets attacked, but we all know that like generally speaking, like there are only like two genders, and the anomalies are there, of course, but the anomalies are like super rare, that like we cannot base our society based on anomalies of people who have for example like a different gender from a male and female, like a hermaphrodite and stuff. So yeah, I understood what you're saying, and thanks for enlightening me, man.
Yeah, of course, man.
for sure.
I hit you with a follow, man. If you want to jump back in or have another conversation on a later date, if you see a topic you want to discuss, feel free.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would like to. I also followed you back so that I can,
Sweet, man. Yeah, thanks for coming up. I appreciate it.
Same here, bro. Thanks for having me. I gotta go. Okay.
All right, man. Have a good one. Oh. Okay, everybody, don't talk at once. Holy sheesh.
L Mikey for real.
Oh my gosh, bro. Dude. Nova, you can blame Kelsey for that one. You can blame Kelsey for that one.
Bro.
No, I find it. I actually love it when people get into the box thinking that like they're gonna have a static argument that's kind of based on the precipice of like, or on the foundation of like the mainstream media's arguments. And they get in, they're like, wait, hold on, I'm ill-equipped for this conversation. And kind of back out.
Right. No, yeah, well, like I think a lot of people will I think a lot of people will tend to gravitate towards like consequentialism because they allow their feelings to like dictate, right? Whether that be some form of like guilt or empathy, whatever the case, or sympathy, whichever the case may be. I think that's more what draws people to align with that. But then when you cut the feelings out and you look at something from a logical perspective, that's when you can truly get to the crux of the argument, right? A lot of people, when they talk about gun control, it's all based around like the what ifs of like bad things that can occur. But in reality, just because bad things can occur, this doesn't mean that we should permit for there to be an infringement upon our rights, right?
Oh, argument winner, get in the box.
I agree with like the beginning of what you say, but just the conclusion is where I draw. And just, I do disagree with you on a lot of these topics, but I'm also like, I'm not, I wasn't trying to like fish out a debate on anything in specific. I was trying to keep going with the conversation that was going on beforehand. You know what I mean? But so you mentioned something about gun control, and I want to feel out where you stand on some of these things. So you like, what do you think of? Well, first off, I'm very familiar with firearms. I've been raised and like acclimated to weapons my whole life, but I think there's a lot of laws, especially here in California, that make zero sense. Like I'm like, people, you can't have a detachable magazine. Like that's wild. There's so many things that don't do anything but make it harder for law-abiding citizens. But if there were a law that were to be proven to actually reduce injury, help save lives, would you think that law is something that's okay to implement? No, even if you could prove that it that was Tyler, not Mike, right?
He believes the same.
Okay. Why is that? You
because we're not consequentialists, we're deontologists.
Yeah, what was the question? I'm sorry, what was the...
He's asking if
there was a law that
you
was
could violate
gun
someone's
control
rights for the greater good.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, there's already laws in place. Are you saying that you feel we should remove laws that are already in place?
Yes, 100%. Yes. Okay.
So
there's logical consistency in their positions, albeit that we may agree. They have fleshed out the logical inconsistencies.
So are you saying that the freedom to bear arms is more important than the safety of a community?
Yes.
Yeah. I would also argue, rather than framing it in the way that the Constitution labels it, I would just say the right to own property. Your right to own property shouldn't be infringed upon.
So I know it's kind of like a silly escalation because I feel like it doesn't.
I
make total
prefer
sense.
you gotta look back on some of the founding fathers, man, of like people like Thomas Jefferson. Like there are a lot of famous like really good quotes from him. One of the ones that I think like would apply in this situation is I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery.
I mean, what was it that Marx said? He said any attempt to disarm the working people should be met with violence, or should be stopped by any means necessary, violence if needed. It's a fun quote.
I'd say that was like the one based statement
Yeah,
that Marx
sounds pretty based to me.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm like to continue that, I would basically be trying to have a conversation about where the idea of personal freedoms and other people's freedoms, because
everything that you're saying is just based off of consequentialism. We've already explained to you like multiple times that we reject your consequentialist normative framework. You would have to somehow convince us either A, to become consequentialist, or B, you would have to somehow work within deontology and prove why like this should not be a right on like deontological standpoint. But I don't think you can definitely can't do the latter. I think your only option really here is to like try and convince us to be consequentialist.
Yeah, which is what I'm saying when I make the statement that the like
hey, what's up, Kay?
That your personal freedoms would, like, if one person's personal freedoms impede another person's personal freedoms, right? Like, then it's the idea that they are limited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but so for example, like with owning a gun, what
Bro, are you playing Stumble Guys right now?
What? No. I'm just messing around saying that's the last 5 numbers of Tony Boy's name. That's why I said it. But no. So like when we're talking about with guns, right? Gun ownership, I would have to ask you what right am I, or what freedom am I imposing on of another individual by simply owning a piece of property?
Okay, so you're saying that because it's the consequence of owning the property and not the action of owning the property itself, right?
I would say that it would be the consequence of using said property as opposed to simply owning it. By virtue of owning something, I can never infringe upon someone's life. By simply owning something, I will infringe upon their life or their rights.
Well, I would say yes and no. So I have to go in a little bit deeper into that. So generally, I would agree with what you're saying. However, there are certain things that I would say, like, here, before I even ask this question, like, Mike, would you say that if I like pointed a gun at you, like, would you say that that's a threat, like, to your life?
Yes.
Okay, so this like should not be permitted, right? Because I would take a threat as like an act of aggression.
Right.
Okay, so we agree there. But like, okay, so let's say like instead of a gun, let's say that I don't know what that is. I know what ICUP is. We used to say that in school.
ICBMs are intercontinental ballistic missiles.
I know what I see.
ICUP, bro. They're like, yo, spell ICUP. ICUP. Oh, yeah. Gross.
Stupid.
No, ICBMs are intercontinental ballistic missiles. They can cross continents. So attaching a nuclear warhead then to an intercontinental ballistic missile is actually a threat to everyone and should not be allowed. Then, is what you're saying.
Well, hold on. Just because you can own something doesn't mean that you can use something. So, like, in order to use this, like, it could only affect, like, your property or people's property that have agreed to. So, like, for instance, if I was like Donald Trump and I had like $5 billion and I owned so much land to where I could launch a nuke and it only hit, like, let's say that, like, I own like these mountains and I launch it and I hit like only these mountains. And I'm doing this because I'm having a huge like cocktail party with just a bunch of other rich snobs. So they're like, oh, check out my missile, check out my warhead. And I launch it, and then you see it, and it just blows up like these mountains. And everyone's like, oh, that's fucking awesome. Like, I didn't violate anyone's rights. I didn't harm anyone.
No. What I'm saying though is that you said just the possession of a grenade in a crowd is a threat. So the possession of an intercontinental ballistic missile means that you can launch a nuke and it can land anywhere.
Hold on. That's not saying what I can and cannot do because I haven't done anything. So because I haven't done anything, that isn't a threat to anyone.
Well, you're holding a grenade okay, so you're saying you can hold a grenade in public as long as it's not within the danger close blast radius.
As long as it is not within the danger of, yes, as long as I'm not within the radius of harming someone else, yes.
But that radius for an intercontinental ballistic missile is the entire Earth.
Is what?
It's the entire world.
No.
Yeah, that is the case. The radius for an intercontinental ballistic missile is the entire world. An ICBM can reach anywhere on the planet.
The like radius of the detonation, not the radius of like the potential for attack.
Right. You're conflating the radius with the potential of where it can travel. When we say the radius, we're saying the blast radius of the
the blast radius. I'm sorry. Did I not make that clear?
Right.
But without a limitation on where it can travel, then the blast radius doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be contained.
That's not what that means, bro.
And if they believe that,
that's literally like saying like the grenade that I hold. Well, the very fact that you have arms and you can throw it like anywhere you want to throw it, then like now the radius is like greater. It's like no, like that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, no, I understand your analogy better. Okay. I can appreciate the logical consistencies in y'all's positions.
Oh yeah, man.
I know, I really do. I disagree with you guys a lot, but that's not withstanding. I appreciate the logical consistency, though.
Yeah, man, I'll be here all week.
It's the only way to have a strong argumentation is you have to remain like I feel like that's the basis for like the beginning of any kind of framework. You have to know how to remain logically consistent. If you have inconsistencies in your own logic, then you're fallacious from the jump.
Yep, I agree with you.
Hey, do you guys have like a Discord or anything?
Be careful what you ask for.
Okay, Discord?
Do we ever?
Yeah, I got a Discord. Yeah, we got a
link
Discord.
in the bio.
Yeah, link in the bio on both profiles. I think my link expired. I forgot to change it out on this profile. But I do have a permanent link in my Mike Patriot 509 account with a 0 for the O.
Yeah, I should have one in my bio too. I think on this one. This is my old account, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we got like over 700 people in there too. So good debates and stuff like that go on in there.
Good to know. I have a few friends that would probably be interested in having more passionate conversation.
Fair warning. We typically don't get to debate like this a lot, like where it's like the nitty gritty. But I enjoy it anyways. It's entertaining.
No, it's I will say that like debating in Discord's a different beast than debating on here because you don't got to worry about what you're gonna say or anything like that. You can just speak your mind. So it definitely
come in with a tortoise shell, man. Like don't.
No, yeah, it definitely gets wild in there. But I do think that a lot of really good constructive conversations take place. Make sure you guys follow the Flying Duchess 5.0. She needs 2 more followers to get 1,000 people. So make sure you guys go follow her real quick. She's in the comment section right there.
I got you, Flying Duchess.
You got it.
Oh, wait, she got it. Never mind.
Boom. She's at 1,000.
I'm going to hop off for a little bit, but it's good to hear from you both, and I wish you the best. I'll talk to you again another time.
Yeah, have a good one, Static.
Take care.
What's going on, Devin? Long time no talk. I might hit a restart, see if I can get some new ops.